When Pop would cut buttons, because I've watched him so much, he'd get those blue, I think it's Wells Lamont, I want to say Wells Fargo. Anyhow, and I don't know how many right-handed gloves we found that were brand new when he passed, but he cut the thumb out. And what he told me was when he would do this, because when you gotta get a grip on that shell, and you gotta hold it tight. And he would to cut it in, because you've got things spinning and coming together spinning, and you got to keep that shell just so. And by having that thumb cut out, he could get a grip real good on that shell. And then he'd do something over here. He'd move this thing, and this thing would move in, and it would cut through the shell, and out comes button blank. See, I found things, and these belong to my daughter. That's a finished shank button. It's got the little shank on the back. And these are actual shell buttons, but these are finished. Now this is not what Pop cut. What he cut was the actual blank, which would have been this whole round piece, no holes, nothing, and it would have probably been about 2 or 3 times thicker than this. And it was called a blank. I had a blank, and my son vacuumed it up out of my car. Or I'd show you the blank. But those were unusual sizes for him. Normally the ones he did were about that big around, just under the size of a dime. And that's the most of what I ever saw him cutting, was those sizes. Now, he talked of a time when he used to cut the little teeny tiny ones for, I guess, baby clothes. And then you get great big ones like that for coat buttons and stuff like this. But the time came, World War II came through, well, and then you're having problems getting through with the shells. Plastics came along, nylon comes along, and there wasn't as much demand now. You know, you could make these other ones so much cheaper. And when you see shell buttons, most of the time, if you find them, it's on Gucci or Prada or whoever all those fancy people are. And there's just fewer and fewer of them. I think it's going to come to a point, unless there's other places in the country that are doing it, I think it's going to come to a point where they're not going to have them anymore. So he really, and it just got to that one size that was mostly what they wanted. I happened to be fortunate enough to have been blessed by my Pop. He gave one to me and one to my brother, and this is what they call a black abalone shell, which I have, I've been burning sage in because we're part Native American. But if you can see in it, you'll see that the mother of pearl type opalescence to it. The coloring is beautiful. And I understand that it's been for quite many years that you've not been able to get these anymore. They come out of Australia. I've had some offers of very large sums of money for this. I won't give it up. But this was what they called the black abalone shell. They had another one that I saw the most growing up, and it was like a white abalone, about that big, and very flat, very rough on the surface. Almost you would think like an oyster shell, but it was much more rounded. Those come out of Australia. No, I think that's all I ever saw him cut from, was especially his big flat ones. I never saw him cut out of these black ones. I don't know how he came to get those. But as far as I know, my brother and I are the only ones that have one. They're cherished and treasured. When we were cleaning up after he died, we found boxes of the saw blanks, which are these metal tubes about maybe that long. And he had a vise that he had hooked up on his button machine, and he'd put these tubes in there, tighten it up, and he would actually hand make the saw that would cut through the shell to cut the button.
Was his machine electric driven? Or?
No. I don't think so. He had a.
Because don't we have his machine at the museum?
You have one of his machines.
Okay, the one that we have at the museum has a motor.
There were 3 that I know of. Now there are 1 and 2, and that was the one that you guys have is the new machine.
Do you know when he would have been using that?
That new machine was out in his new shop that he built on the garage, which was further back on the property. And I don't know when he got that. I don't know how old that was, but he called it his new machine. Now there were 2 others One of the machines I know was an old foot pedal. There was something he worked, and he had to work it with his foot. Now, I don't know. Now, he may have rigged that up to be electric, but I remember him having the thing, and he was going there with his foot. But
Sort of like an old sewing machine?
kind of reminded me of that, the old treadle sewing machines. But what the Milton Historical Society has is the new machine. However, he had in his in the shop he was in the most, right behind the house, was one of the old machines. And I know when I looked at the one they had up there at the Historical Society, I said, boy, they cleaned that up real good, because I never saw them looking that clean. They were coated. Dust, oil, button dust, grease.